Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to my weekly live Q&A. Having some technical difficulties, so we're going old school here and holding in our hand. I'm going to try and be as steady as possible while I'm doing this. But let's just jump into the question. So first question this week, it says, I recently had someone ghost me after telling me they were interested in the product I was selling. What should I do next? So in real estate especially, it's not uncommon for people not to show up. In fact, the show rate for buyer appointments, especially for internet leads, is probably, somewhere between 55 and 60%, so a little over half of those people are going to show up. Listings still, good, 75, 80%, but not all guaranteed. And so here's the thing. Number one, what you have to realize is that it's not always you, right? It's not always about you, if that makes any sense. A lot of times I think we go right to beating ourselves up and internalizing it. And so, what else could it mean? Maybe they got sick. Maybe they really weren't that motivated. Maybe something else came up that they had to take care of. There's lots of things that it could have been. It could have been your scripts and dialogues and what you said over the phone, right? So we don't know exactly what it is. But first thing you need to do when somebody ghosts you is to really understand that, it may not necessarily be about you, and you shouldn't beat yourself up because you become your own worst enemy at that point, and then it's hard for you to recover. So the next thing is obviously you want to get back in touch with that person. Texting is usually really good. The only problem with text is while they have a high read rate, it's easy for them to respond via text and for you not to have a great conversation with them. I recommend that you kind of use the force multiplier effect, which is, email them, text them, and call them, and let them know, by email, hey, I texted you, just trying to catch up. You send a text, hey, listen, I left you a voicemail message, and really try and use as many methods of getting in touch with them as possible. But you definitely want to call them. Here's the other thing, you can use other people's phones, or you can get another, there's programs out there that will allow you to go ahead and get a random phone number out there. There's phone number randomizers and whatnot. So there's different things you can do to go ahead and make sure you get in contact with that person. What I am saying is that you shouldn't give up. Okay, we have missed appointments all the time, and you just have to make it a regular part of your ongoing prospecting strategy. So if somebody doesn't show up, you're going to have to call them back in, and you may have to throw them back into your regular rotation. One last thing, and if you just take a look at the numbers, if you're tracking your dials, your contacts, your nurtures, your appointments, and your shown appointments, you can look at each of the conversions to find out where there is a breakdown. For instance, if you're making lots of dials but not making lots of contacts, it could be that your data set's not good. It could be that you're calling at the wrong time of the day. If you're making lots of contacts but you're not getting a lot of appointments, it could be the data set. It could be the fact that the people you're calling are not motivated. It could be your scripts and dialogues. If you're making lots of appointments but they're not showing up, then you're likely setting appointments with people who either aren't ready or aren't motivated. And so if they show up and they don't buy, probably the same thing right there as well. So just kind of take that under advisement. If somebody ghosts you, you have to get back after it, but don't internalize it and make it always about you, because that can be very, not to say damaging, but it can really work against you. Disempowering is the word I'm looking for. It can certainly work against you and your effort to get better. All right, next question. What do you recommend is a good amount of times to follow up with someone after multiple missed calls? Great question. InsideSales.com, which it's got a different name now. They say when you first try to reach out to somebody, it's 10 contact attempts, in the first 14 days, combination of texts, emails, and phone calls. As far as I'm concerned, phone calls should be the largest portion of that contact effort, but that's just me. If they've missed multiple calls, it's hard, because if you did a good job and they were motivated, something may be going on. And what I found is number one, even the most motivated of people aren't thinking about us, right? Even the most motivated prospects are not thinking about the salesperson that they're working with. They're always thinking about themselves, just like we are. And just because they're on our mind regularly because we're trying to convert them into an opportunity doesn't mean they're thinking about us. So life happens, things happen. I like the twice a day approach. Call in the morning. If they don't answer, don't leave a message. And then at the end of the day, leave a voicemail, text messages in between. I'm cool with, at least 10 contact attempts after missed calls. I really am. Put in a couple emails, throw in a couple text messages, maybe hit them up on social media. Be very curious about what's going on. Like, hey, are you okay? Is everything okay? That's the approach I think you should take, because it really is about them, and you want to make sure that they are okay. You don't want to be mad. You don't want to assume that something bad is happening. I mean, you don't want to assume that they're bailing on you, right? I mean, fact of the matter is they may be, but you want to come from a position of care and empathy, okay? And then lastly, was there ever a time you wanted to give up on sales? Yes. How did you overcome it? It says, I'm struggling to close my deals and could use some advice to keep going. So it's interesting because I posted something like that today on Facebook for folks that are, sorry, I'm switching my hand here. So again, if you're just joining me, I'm going old school here because I'm having some technological issues here. But so the whole thing is this, is that, the people who are the most successful in the real estate industry today, for the most part, are the people that were in the real estate industry during the Great Recession or before and during the Great Recession, and they figured out a way to make it work during that. And so, is it activity? Sure. Taking action? Sure. But it's also a big mental component to it. And you just have to find a way to push through. And, you can do that through motivational videos, things on YouTube, reading books. But it's also good to sit with people who have gone through it before and find out what strategies they've used to get through it. Obviously, having a very strong why is super important. If you've never read Find Your Why by Simon Sinek, I highly recommend that. But, you have to have a strong enough why so that you're not going to give up. The other thing is it's what you focus on. I've talked to people before, and they're like, geez, my bank account is dwindling. I'm like, well, you can focus on what's not in your bank account, or you can focus on doing the things you need to do to fill your bank account, but you can't do both, right? You can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you're sitting there and you're worried about how much money you have or don't have, and you're not doing the things you need to do, and you're frittering away your time with worry and procrastination due to fear and perfectionism, that's probably going to work against you. But if you're focused on doing the things you need to do that that mean move the needle, which it's pretty simple. There's prospecting, there's open houses, there's door knocking, there's showing people houses, and there's taking listings. Right? I mean, if you work on focus on doing those things, mostly everything is going to happen for you, and it'll happen in due time. You just can't give up, if that makes any sense. And that's it. And you have to power through. So find a mentor in your area who made it through the Great Recession. Find out what they did. We are requiring a bit of a pivot here right now. So, one of the things I can tell you is that being an expert in this market and what's happening, to give people the guidance they need to help them understand that if they're still looking to buy a home or sell a home, that it's still a good time to do it, as long as it meets their needs and requirements for what they're looking to do. If you guys have any questions, I'm giving you a minute here. If you want to pop a question in there, I'd love to answer a question. If not, always good to have you here Wednesdays. You can join me, and we got live questions here. Always good to see you here. Thanks for hopping in, everybody. And Isma and Tamra, Carson was here. I see my man Hunter. So thanks for hopping in, everybody. And, we'll see you next week at noon Central. Bye-bye.